Please welcome Connie Stewart.
Good afternoon. My rural American truth to power that I want to speak to you today is rural broadband is critical to America's economic viability. Hey, okay. If you care about health care, if you care about education, if you care about the rural economy, you have to pay attention to broadband policy in this country. And I just want to tell you a quick story because I only have a few seconds. We had some state legislators come up to our community, and everyone was taking opportunity to say why they thought broadband was important, you know, this and that and that and that. And you could tell they were just kind of glazing their eyes over. And finally somebody stood up and said, rural America has a God-given right to broadband. Everyone cheered, and ever since I saw that elected representative, every time she sees me, she says, God-given right, rural America. So here's God at the podium checking out the internet. I'm going to give you a few policy ideas here that I think we really need to focus on. Federal leadership must create a national broadband strategy, and rural America must play a big role in that strategy. Most developed countries already have a strategy, and currently the United States is 15th out of 30th in developed nations for broadband deployment. We used to be at the top, and every year we're going down, 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 down. And that's not just in rural America, that's urban America and suburban America. We are falling behind. And one of the reasons that we're falling behind is because we have a deregulated environment when it comes to rural broadband. And that means the government has a hands-off policy, just provides a few incentives, and they don't pay attention, and private entities, private providers, decide where to put broadband based on how much money they're going to make. And so we really need to develop a strategy. Japan did this 3 years ago. They went from 40% coverage to 85% coverage in 3 years. So we really need to get our strategy together and start implementing it. You know, we're Americans. When we put our mind to something, we do it. Broadband must be available to all regardless of race, economic level, geographical boundaries, or other discriminatory barriers. Everyone needs it. You know, we don't need it on one side of the lake and not the other side of the lake. We need it everywhere. Federal leadership must support ubiquitous, affordable availability of broadband. Federal leaders must also support fiber to the premise, even in rural America. That's fiber to the home and fiber to the business. And the reason is, yes, wireless is part of the strategy. And I want to give a shout out to something you'll be hearing about earlier, white spaces. Wireless could be better. We can do more for wireless. If the FCC would open TV white spaces to wireless internet providers, then we could have better and cheaper and more availability on wireless. But over time, wireless broadband is not going to be adequate for economic growth. Most people are already talking about that next broadband generation of technology, gigabyte technology. And if we don't have fiber, rural could be left out. Most of you remember when dial-up was enough. Dial-up isn't enough. It's the same thing. We've got to have fiber. We must have uniform policies for broadband deployment on federal lands, and those policies can take into consideration cultural and environmental, but right now what happens is it's really up to the land managers. And we've had situations where it's taken 7 years to get technology on an existing pole because they're just not being processed properly. So we need a strategy so that companies, providers can know exactly what they need to do in order to put broadband in communities surrounded by public lands. Federal leadership must support net neutrality. Now, if you're not following net neutrality, just know our urban and suburban brothers are and sisters are. And net neutrality is essentially avoiding what I call the pay-per-view internet strategy. And if you think it's hard to compete now, just imagine if you have providers who are asking for money in order to go to specific websites. So we need to pay attention to net neutrality. So in summary, we need to create a national broadband strategy, support ubiquitous, affordable availability, fiber to the premise, and uniform policies, and support net neutrality. We did it with roads, we did it with electricity, we need to do it with broadband. And here's just a quick little quote. I know I'm out of time here. So I also just want to say, when we did it, the federal highways under Eisenhower, it immediately paid for itself. That's what's important. This technology will pay for itself in rural America or anywhere we put it. So my dream is that we will all work together, rural, urban, and suburban, to make affordable high-speed broadband available for all. And thank you very much.